6 years ago, I proposed to my husband. It was one of the easiest decisions I've ever made, and not one I ever had to question. I did it on a roller coaster, and I would do it 10 times over. But to a lot of people, this might seem weird. I mean, don't you as the woman want to be proposed to? But that was 6 years ago, and now it's 2023. And more couples these days are forgoing the traditional rules of marriage, challenging the assumption that a woman must take her husband's last name. The Lucy Stoners of today have awakened. People are waking up to this realization. Why is it still done this way? Why aren't we questioning its relevancy? As a culture, our attitudes on masculinity are evolving. We've started to question what a couple is supposed to look like. And the New York Times recently reported that a growing number of men have started to question the automatic assumption that the wives will take their names, and some have opted to take their wife's name. So in this video, you'll hear both sides, both from me and my husband.
There are so many societal rules out there, people telling us how to be more feminine, how to embody our masculine strength, when really, it's all a distraction from honoring and listening to ourselves. I knew it was really important that I proposed to my husband, Alex. It was something I've always wanted to do. There was no question about it. And my husband didn't really have a strong opinion either way. I remember after I got married, quite a few family members were uncomfortable with the idea of my husband taking my last name. I remember some family members just being confused and wanting to confront Alex about why he would want to do that. And I even remember some very traditional, religious, conservative family members that I have would not call me by my name, Helena Woods. They constantly, wrote on letters to me that I was Helena Vera, even though I very clearly told them that I was keeping my last name. I say all this because as a woman, if you decide to keep your last name, or if you're a man and you take your partner's last name, you will be confronted. People will not accept you. People will call you by your husband's last name, or they won't respect your decision. And that's okay. That's on them. What's most important is that you are living true to yourself.
You may wonder if you or your partner will feel emasculated. I'm sure many might feel this way. But to feel this way says a lot about the headspace of our current society. Psychologically, it says a lot about where we are as people and why it's blocking us from where we're heading. Equality. I encourage you to ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? Who taught me to feel this way? Where am I being programmed? Think for yourself, challenge expectations, and challenge the idea of what is seen as normal.
I proposed to my husband at Walt Disney World on a roller coaster ride. It was actually Aerosmith's Rock and Roller Coaster at Disney's Hollywood Studios back in December of 2017, and we were in the front row of this roller coaster and it was counting down, shot off in the dark and jammed out to Aerosmith's Sweet Emotion. And we got a picture from that moment at the end of the ride, which was really special.
Babe, how many years ago was it? 5 years ago? I think it was 5 years ago. Yeah, 2017, December 2017, I proposed to you on this ride. It's from 5 years ago. Here, back where we got engaged 5 years ago, I proposed right there. 5 years ago. Crazy cool.
I remember when we got back to our hotel that night, I had rose petals and champagne and chocolate delivered to our room, and I got us little Carl and Ellie pins from Disney Pixar's Up that said that we were engaged, and I showered and spoiled him the way that my Leo moon loves to spoil. It was a magical memory, and it was also important that Alex proposed to me. He wanted to propose to me. And so he proposed to me the next day at Epcot World Showcase in the UK area along the water. It was quiet in the early morning, no one was in the park, and it wasn't this big thing. And that's how we wanted it. We didn't want this huge, high maintenance, big deal event. For us, that just doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel like us. Your relationship is between you and your partner, and the decisions you make together are yours and yours alone. And society will judge you, not accept you for making choices that are outside the norm. But as long as you're staying true to yourself, your intuition, and following that inner guidance, there's nothing you can do wrong.
Hey there. So you may be wondering, all right, well, what does the husband think about all this, right? Well, I'm here to share with you my thoughts on what I think about all this. So, about Helena proposing to me instead of me proposing to her. I think why not, it shouldn't just be the husband or just be the man to propose to a woman just because of a patriarchal society where that's the assumption, right? I think that it could be the woman proposing to the man or the man proposing to the woman. It depends more on personality, It depends more on who prefers to do it, who is feeling it more. And usually you've talked about it already, and we talked about it already. And it was really important for Helena to propose to me. And I really liked that idea, actually. And I was open to proposing to her. And in fact, I kind of did want to propose to her. And so we got a little agreement that she proposed to me as long as I could propose to her the next day. So I definitely think, women, any women out there who feel like they're waiting for their man to propose, just go ahead and do it. If that's important to you, you do it to him first. If he says no, you can still date and talk about it. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, how do I feel about taking my wife's name? Well, my mother hyphenated her last name, so that wasn't a weird thing, to combine names or, to not just take the last name of the husband. And I think it's important that, just because you're getting married, you don't have to change your last name. Or if you change your last name, it doesn't have to be together, like you can hyphenate it. And actually, I think it depends on the name. So my last name doesn't mean anything specific, but my wife's last name is Woods. And how cool is that? Woods, trees, things that change carbon dioxide into oxygen, and they're part of an important ecosystem in our world. And Woods, that I love the idea of having Woods as my last name. But I also didn't want to lose my last name. So I thought to myself, well, I've never liked my middle name, so why don't I make my old last name my middle name and take my wife's last name? And for me, that was the perfect combination. So it's first name, my old last name as my middle name, and then my wife's last name as my last name, because her name is really cool. But, it depends on the people. Maybe the husband's last name is really cool to the wife, so the wife wants to take the husband's last name because of that. Or maybe they want to hyphenate it, Again, I think it shouldn't be an assumption that the wife should just take the husband's last name just because, again, of the standards of the patriarchal society in the past. I guess what I'm saying is I advocate not making assumptions that the wife will just take the husband's last name or the husband will just propose because that's what's been done in the past. Do what's right for you, If you don't like the last name, don't take it. If you want to have a hyphen, do that. There's so many different things you can do. And now as a society today, I think we're evolving more to do what makes sense for the couple rather than what is expected to us from society. But those are just my 2 cents. Back on over to Helena.
So what does this all mean? Question everything. Question any societal norm or cultural expectation that you think you need to follow. Ask yourself what is most important to you. What would make you happy in your life and your partner happy? What is the truest expression of your relationship?
Since getting married in 2018 and my husband taking my last name, I've seen several of my friends and acquaintances be inspired by this idea of taking the bride's name. And it feels really good to see how one simple decision that we made has ignited conversations, sparked a wave of contemplation, of how we still, to this day, automatically make the assumption that a woman must give up her name and take her husband's. I'm making this video because I don't want you to believe that we as a society have to continue the social trend of centuries past. Every day is a new start. Every year we progress forward. And we get to make the choice of where our society heads next. Is the solution to create a new name as a married couple? Take the woman's last name? Or maybe a hyphenated name? I'm not sure. But I hope that we stop assuming and start talking.
If you'd like to read more about Alex and my story, our marriage, why I proposed to him and why he took my last name, or even if you want to read about our engagement and the process of our proposal and what was going on in my head that day as I was getting ready to propose to Alex, I will include my blog post down below in the description box and in a comment so you can read our story. I've always loved writing and blogging and sharing my life publicly with other people. This is something I'm very open and happy to do, and I love sharing my story in hopes that it might inspire other people out there who maybe want to live unconventionally, untraditionally, and more authentically to who you really are. Living authentically is the way that we honor ourselves the most. And keeping my last name was a way of honoring my authentic self.